Hello, 8-9 Rugby for your rugby week, and it is a very special guest into the co-host chair this week from the Lecker Rugby Pod, and formerly of this very parish, the original 8 half of the combo. Welcome back, Harry Jones. Hello,
How's
mate.
it, Brett?
How you going?
How's it? It's weird. It's weird to come home to something you were sort of part of creating, but now it's grown up. It's different. Everything gets different. But mate, it's really nice to see you and chats about whatever you're going to chat about. What's interesting too is we always had a little bit of a plan. Now I'm just going on saying, "Do with me as you will."
Yeah, it's not too different to what we used to do. There's about
That's
the
fair.
same amount of planning. So a very quick recap of how this is all working in 2026. This is the next evolution of what you know and love from the 8-9 combo. This guy's departure means the combo has made way for a whole host of guest hosts each week, rather than any permanent co-host, and that has, yes, left the door open for the return of Harry Jones. So thank you, mate. I'm actually genuinely glad we could do this so soon. I wasn't sure when it might happen, so it's pretty cool to be doing it so quickly.
No, it's very cool. I've been watching, obviously, with great interest about what you're doing on Substack
Yeah.
and aggregating rugby knowledge and writing, and that's something that I think is surely needed, missed in Australia, and for sure, I think with the demise, if it is a demise, who knows? So the Roar, there's this giant vacuum, into which something must go, and kudos on you for jumping in.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. Jeff Parks and I, we've made ourselves busier. There's no doubt about that, but it's been good. It's been really, really good. So, and we'll touch on that later on, I'm sure. Straight into his cheers, mate. It's still going in 2026. What are you cheering from around the rugby world this weekend?
Hey, I'll cheer. The value of competence, extreme competence. We look a lot about goats and talent and speed and aerials and strength, but there's something to be said for a guy like Kyle Stain. Even his name, it suggests sort of just this competent, workman-like guy. And for a while now, and we had Franco Smith on like a robot, and he talked about how Kyle was the best at regaining kicks, and it's right in an era when that becomes super important. Sort of big, but not as quick as some of the other wings. Slithery-ish, but not as evasive. It just sort of the idea of really getting good at something, and it just all came together against the French
Yeah.
when it just seemed like he could do no wrong. He got a cut on his leg. His dad told me it wasn't actually an injury near the end, so he'll be back for Ireland. But it just the idea that he was winning the aerials, winning the scraps, being the crumbs man. In rugby now with all these ricochets and pinball rugby, you've
So
got to have
important.
people who are quick, like
Yeah.
Jorgensen type people who can pick up the scraps. Louis Bealby. There's not a coincidence that Louis Bealby and Cheslin Colby and these guys are doing well. The little guys who have it. But Kyle's a big guy who is an opportunist. And I think that's so brilliant to watch his rise. And the idea that you don't have to be the quickest. You don't really have to have all these KPIs and gym, personal record lifting. Be really good at the frenetic game
Yeah.
rugby.
Yeah, and the interesting part there is that Scotland with Darcy Graham and Kyle Stain have sort of gone for the smaller winger, and a guy like Duan Funderburg, who was just a beast out on the edge. Suddenly, you're sort of wondering how he fits in to the way Scotland are playing right at this very moment. So yeah, that's a good shout. I don't mind that. I've got a bit broader than that, and I'm just saying Scotland the Brave. I mean, just wow, that performance on the weekend was just absolutely magnificent. I'm so glad I watched that game live. It as it happened, I was not long home from Canberra Stadium because the lateness at which the Brumbies Reds game finished after a 90-minute lightning delay to kick off basically meant that I was still wired by the time I got home from the stadium. So I just rolled straight into Scotland, France, and I was so glad I did. It was just an incredible game. The scoreline absolutely flatters France. They were just thumped in that game, and now
Yeah,
it just
there
sets
was
things
some
up.
junk time tries at the end. I mean, it was
Yeah,
comprehensive for the final 20 minutes. You knew it was only one way. It was record setting. It was fantastic. How much of your DNA is Scottish? So how much of this was ancient stirrings of pride?
yeah. There's clans in the Northern Highlands. I believe is the way it's been told to me over the time. So yes, there was a little bit of pride there.
Were you? There were moments I shouted during that match. I mean, there were fist pumpings. It was that kind of thing to watch. You know, it was exhilarating. That's what it was.
It really was. It really was.
There were a few things. There was a try that scored by Carl Stain, where there was a beautiful. I almost thought of you like the first phase setup try. That is beautiful. It was high top, and then fed down to George Turner. For all the world, looked like the classic hooker storming diagonally towards the poles. Is going to set up a series of around the corner bash by the other forwards going right. Instead, it's a flip over the head. The ball goes to Kyle's ear. He just about catches it.
Yeah,
and then
just sort of caught it there.
Just shears to the corner flag. And it was such a thing of beauty. I don't think it would work every time, but every now and then you pull that out of the hat. A first phase try like that is hard to defend.
60% of the time, it works every time. The great rugby chats will continue in just a second after you all hit the red subscribe button down there in the bottom corner if you're on YouTube. And if you hit follow, hit like, hit subscribe, whatever it is on any of the pod platforms. And either way, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure your notifications are turned on. Six Nations round 4, mate. What a weekend of rugby it was. Obviously headlined by Scotland's dominant win over France, 50-40, but kicked off by Ireland beating Wales. I think that was pretty well expected. And then, as if Scotland dominating France wasn't enough, Italy 23 beat England 18. Why don't we start there with that? They were just comfortable over England, Italy, weren't they? It was a performance for the ages, and I think the recognition and the immediate respect that has grown in Italy this year, this tournament particularly, is very, very real. Like it doesn't any longer feel like the 5 nations plus Italy now. It's genuinely six teams in this tournament now.
So many angles to put here. So I'll sort of take a few on. Before the tournament started, Rassi Erasmus came out and said, "Watch Italy," and people acted like, "You're trolling. What are you trying to do? Just throwing stuff in there." But I think he knew something. First of all, Franco Smith, when he was on our pod, he talked about building national player of interest when he was there. So how long it took to get there is underestimated, and building that. And he said, Franco said that he expects Italy to have one of the higher cap counts as a whole in 2027, but the highest in 2031 because of things put in place. So structures are real. The reflection I'll bring for the Aussie audience is Dave Rennie just became the All Black coach. In some big part, he was fired as a Wallaby coach because of the loss to Italy. When you look at the team sheet of Italy now, it doesn't look like you thought that team sheet looked like then. I mean, those are the same Canonis, Brex, Beloncello. These guys were very young. And it looks in retrospect like, Dave, that wasn't that unusual on a 5-test tour that you might drop one to Italy.
Yeah,
so it's not fluky anymore.
And they've lost to Italy again since then. So as we all said at the time, maybe that was an overreaction, and it absolutely was. But that's definitely another conversation for another day.
It's a very smart team too. And I was thinking about it when you look at some of we almost think they're doing lots of dashing tries and extremely speedy work. It's not really. They're not scoring that many tries. They're being very clever with the ball. They're playing in the right areas. They're avoiding things that Italian teams used to do, which is not exiting properly, not kicking in the proper places. They're making their goals. I thought so. I pulled out a quote for you from one of my favorite Roman quote machines, Cicero. And because he's a Stoic and I'm a Stoic. He said, "It is not by muscle, speed, or physical dexterity that great things are achieved, but by reflection, force of character." And I think that's something to that. This Italian team,
Mm,
the way they're winning is gritty, and they are
mm.
tackling themselves into a coma. I'll give you an example of a guy that I think is maybe making Sergio Parisse less spoken of as the only great Italian player. So Lorenzo Cannoni, he's played
Yes.
306 minutes, 64 tackles at 92% completion rate,
Yeah.
12 of those dominant, 3 of them turnovers. Hey, but he also carries 37 carries, gets over the gain line 2% of the time. He evades tackles. He's got the most post-contact meters in his team, and he hits rucks. I mean, that's a machine. And that's the kind of player that I didn't know that much about him. This tournament is making me watch Lorenzo Cannoni.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to pick up on a few articles out of England, particularly, and a few podcasts here and there, and the very mention of him exacts the same sort of emotion. It was like, remember not that long ago we used to talk about Parisi being, the greatest Italian player of all time and forever. Like he would just never be challenged.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, it's just like Sergio who? It's
we know their names now. I mean, like
we do.
I don't. If 3 years ago, whatever the Dave Rennie loss was, if you had challenged me, and I follow rugby incessantly like a maniac, I couldn't have given you more than about 5 names. Got a BC, Coop. So I mean, but now I know Fischetti, Ferrari, Nicotera. I mean, but mostly because the names are fun to say, but I actually know them because they're good.
Yeah, very, very good. Lemoncello has had the absolute tournament to die for. And conversation on the panel show down here this week is just like, right now, if you think of the inside centers that are dominating the world game, can you think of anyone better than Lemoncello right now? And the conversation went, well,
he's top three or 4.
Maybe Ikitau, maybe Delende, but he's absolutely in.
He's well within the top 3. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's just magnificent. So then Scotland just absolutely dominated France, and so I've got a question for you about this, because France picked up the late bonus point by courtesy of scoring the 4 tries, and so I know that you've never been a fan of bonus points, and I wonder whether it is particularly the 4 try bonus point that you don't like, because France were disinterested in this game up until the point where Dupont scored his try, and all of a sudden they realized, we could actually salvage something from this game. And so
yes.
they lifted a gear and they were a little bit more physical. They played more, they had more shape about them. And then they got the 4th try and it was like, okay, good. Now our work here is done. And everything else after that was genuine junk. But there was that little moment where they just went, hang on, there is actually something to play for in this game. Until that point that Dupont scores his try, they were content with being beaten by 30 points. So I wonder if that's a source of your bonus point dislike, because in that scenario, I really reminded myself why I still really dislike the four try bonus point.
Yeah, so it's a larger issue. I think sometimes it doesn't motivate what I think it's supposed to. I do see that it sometimes does. So bonus pointism has a thing. I know, I get it. But I also don't think on the integrity of the competition, you should never have a team that lost more be ahead of a team that won more ever under any circumstances. And it does sometimes, more in a long tournament. When you have 16 rounds, I can see it happening. And also sometimes it makes the leaders so far away that it's impossible to catch them. And so I kind of like always jeopardy. So especially in the Six Nations, with such a short tournament, I like everything to just come down to wins and losses and points differential, or head to head, depending on what you like. I just like that. But it's interesting now that Scotland saved the tournament basically. So now you have 3 teams that are 3-1.
Well,
the permutations
here's the standings here. Yeah.
And they're really clear to understand. I think every fan now knows if France wins with a bonus point, they win. If Scotland wins, but France doesn't get a bonus point, then there's a chance there. And then Ireland could win if France loses. and other things happen. So you have literally the fine, and you have England totally invested, right, as a kingmaker or a spoiler. So
Yes,
you've got
yes,
four
yes.
teams really badly, and then you have the drama of the wooden spoon as well.
Yeah. Like it just
I guess
occurred
Wales
to me
has the
that
wooden spoon, but there's the
I know what you
drama
mean.
of could Wales probably save, like, yeah, that'd be huge if they would beat Italy, because now Italy's, like, I think it's all the
Yeah,
narratives changed around each one. Italy's sort
and
of the middle of the table team now instead of the right next to Wales.
and equally they're playing this weekend for a third win in a tournament which they've never done before. So
Fantastic.
there's so much
Yeah.
there's so much. I made the point pretty well on full time after Scotland France is that the problem I have now is that there are too many must watch games at stupid hours of the morning for me. So not
Yeah,
going
that's
to
true.
work. It's,
Yeah,
it's just not going to work.
on Scotland, I will say this too. They've and a reflection is on all these the top three teams now. They did it different ways. It's
They
not
did.
like everyone followed the data. And I think here's where I'm probably I'm kind of tweaking England a bit. I think England's been too much invested, under Borthwick, of here is an analytic. We must follow this. If you look at
Yes.
Scotland and the French, they were coming about it very different ways on the kick length, on how they approach set pieces, and what they would
Yep.
do with it. But Scotland carried a lot, even though they're not Gainline monsters. What they do is they commit two tacklers a lot, and they're very good at the red zone. That's Ireland too. Ireland's just good when they get there; they'll score. Also, Scotland feeds off the cover defense. Have a great tackle defense percentage, but their set pieces are iffy. I mean, Scotland sort of just survived some of the set pieces through the tournament. And so it's interesting to see that there's what I would say this when we try to mess with a game and I like a game where it's really different ways to win. And at the pointy end of tournaments, you have different styles. I think that's brilliant. I cannot
Yeah.
wait to see England clash against France. I cannot wait to see Ireland, Scotland, because they're going to bring different stuff.
And I think that is what's made this year's tournament so great this year, because there have been different ways of winning. And you're right, England have been playing this almost metronomic.
Yes.
This is how we're going to play. We're going to kick and we're going to regain, and you won't be able to beat us. And for 12 games, that worked really, really well. And they were like, "Ha, see, we told you." And then
it's like boxes. Yeah, tick, 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 and they go, therefore we shall win. So ruck speed, with by far the quickest. Oh, Gainline percentage, tick. Gainline Donnell, tick, set piece. But where was the magic? I think all the teams that are top three now, you see there's some player, that Balogun, or there's Bielberry, or there's Hugh Jones. It's just someone who's breaking it, and you just kept waiting for England to do something. I don't know. I think all we got left now is England's incredible desire to spoil the French party.
Yes.
The funniest thing will be for England to have their best game in round 5.
and you can't rule that out now this weekend. So I suppose that's actually the perfect segue
it'll be speech time, man. It'll be we happy few, we band of brothers, all that stuff. And it's going to be reminiscent of the old days. And I looked across that rivalry, by the way, and it's very interesting between France and England. I mean, they've kind of been forever enemies, right, in the world.
Yes.
And I think here's what happened.
Beyond the rugby field, yes.
Right, they had the Capetian, Plantagenets, the 100 Years' War, Napoleonic, and then it all ended when they got to be friends in 1904. And so what's replaced all that actual war is this. And as a French writer, Ferland, said, England is our most dear enemy. And I think that's just so great. I mean, it's going to be so fun to see the English try to spoil the French parade.
It really is. It really is. So that definitely does then bring us to the games this weekend. And it starts with Ireland, Scotland in Dublin. Wales, Italy is sort of like the it's sort of like the interval That's the go and fill the popcorn, go and get another cup of tea.
Yeah.
And then England, and then France, England to finish. What? I mean, it's a really trite question. What are you expecting? Can expect anything in the true sense of expectation? Because if the tournament has given us anything this year, it's to expect the unexpected. So
yeah,
what are we going to get?
Shape of the game has resulted in more high scores, blowouts. It's almost like if you start losing, you lose bigger now in some of the ways that it's adjudicated and encouraged. Not even just law changes, but you can have an emphasis. And there's, as Bernard Jackman talks about, is there's more gray in the game now. There's not just black and white. It's just not.
Yeah,
when you go to training now, you see how the teams prepare for chaos, and they both foment chaos, but also they know it's going to happen. So the score can really snowball on you, but that plays both ways, because then you can also catch up a lot, and so the rapidity of scoring is up. So only a fool would say they know what's going to happen, but these are things that are real, which is Ireland owns the rivalry right now, but with Scotland, I think they've won 11 straight. That is the longest winning streak, and if they go to 12, that'll be the longest of either of them. So a dozen wins in a row. So 2017 was the last time that Scotland won. On the other hand, the way that they're playing right now, and given that Scotland's knocked off, arguably the two biggest scalps, and this is to be the third, I have a very difficult time seeing this matchup and predicting it. So Scotland is high carry, rock retainers, short tacklers, a bit dodgy on the exit, and leaky line out. Ireland is a sort of safe line out thieves, the turnover kings, and their dominant tacklers. And so that just, I cannot wait for this match just from a style contest. And I also love it when Scotland becomes cocky. It always reminds me of Sean Connery. Sean Connery, he has the greatest quotes, and his best quote for me was, "I have always hated that damn James Bond. I like to kill him." Like the guy that the actual character that made him famous, he wanted to kill him.
Yes.
But they're getting to be, I just feel like they're, okay, this is very weird, because there's two Australians and two South Africans that are very instrumental right now on the Scottish team, but I feel like the Scots are playing like Scots. Like they're finally playing the way I want them to play, in a romantic sense, heart and soul. Sione Tuipulotu, I don't know what part of him is tapping into that, but it's absolute magic the way he's motivating. I love Jack Dempsey chatting about what he said to them, even post-match. He said, Sione told the boys, "We kept our promise."
Yes, I heard him say that. It was
and
great.
I think that's really inspirational. I think, Kyle Stain talks a lot about how hard they're working for each other. They're coming, a lot of them from Glasgow, and and also there's significant Edinburgh. And I think there's Ben Darwin talk about cohesion. But look at the four guys, the two Aussies and two Saffers, Tuipulotu, Dempsey, Stain, and Skuman. It's 39 carries for Tuipulotu, 41 for Jack Dempsey, hard carries from standstill, 29 Stain, and 37 for Skuman. They're the most evasive. They're 1, 2, 4, and 5 in meters post contact in the team. They're all Gainline monsters, and they are they're involved in lots of tries. So I think, I hate people harping on this from an immigrant standpoint. I just think it's interesting to have that much dynamism from those four guys.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And as an Australian fan, we look at Sione Tuipulotu and we look at Jack Dempsey, and Dempsey particularly, I can't help but thinking, and I've thought this for a good number of years, because he's been playing for Scotland for a good number of years now. If you played even 80% as consistently as you do for Scotland now, he would be 100 Test Wallaby.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right.
He just would be. There would never have been any floating out of the game like he did toward the back end of his career in Australia, to the point that when he left to go to Scotland, it was just like, see you, mate.
Strange, right?
It just wasn't missed. And then Tuipulotu is playing, and he has become exactly the kind of blockbusting inside centre that the Melbourne Rebels coaches 10 years ago thought he could be, and that he just didn't apply himself enough to become.
Yeah.
And so it's taken going to literally the opposite corner of the world for him to become the player that he was identified to be as a 15-year-old in Melbourne.
And such an acknowledged leader. You know, like a lot of people have done well going captain to other countries, but I don't know that many that went to another country and became the captain and are absolutely acknowledged as the captain. It's actually quite interesting.
And
the social cues and all that stuff.
He's endeared himself to Scotland rugby so well. The vision of him getting up there to accept the cup, and he comes to Princess Anne and says, "Is this going to happen? Are we going to do the hug thing?" And she's in on it as well. Like, she knows that, you know, at some point in time they are going to have this hug that they should never ever have, and they're just building up to it, and it's wonderful to see. It's so good to see.
So on the other side of that match, though, I actually think I'd probably put my pounds on Ireland, and I'll say this: I think Ireland, you know, but Scotland and Ireland both stumbled in round one, and they've had to rebuild through the tournament. And so I'm not saying this in particular about Ireland because Scotland's the same, but I think Ireland really had their arse handed to them, and I think there was such a rude awakening that it allowed Andy Farrell to show his best side, which I think is man management, personnel, you know, sucker punch right in the face, bleeding, and he had to sort of go, "Hey, Josh van der Fleer, I'm sitting you down from a World Player of the Year, and I'm putting too many heat on you. I'm bringing Balaku and McCloskey in. I'm bringing in the Ulster contingent. Maybe even I'm sitting down Jemison, and I'm going to light a fire under you." And every single thing he did came off. Yeah, and I was thinking, there's such a level of trust. Because Josh van der Fleer, having been sat down in favor of Tom Curry and the Lions, he might have already had some sort of loss of confidence. Then you have Timothy breathing down his neck. But I think Andy knew his man, and he said, "Step up." So it's interesting to see how well they're cooking. I think Scotland might catch them on a post-French beating high. Just kind of wonder that Ireland just might have too much, you know, in the tank to do this.
Yeah,
and I think the friendship of the Ireland camp is appealing to me too. There's a lot of, they really came through a hard time, and the Lions thing was grueling. You know, it sort of reminds me of, and I'm going to quote Yeats now, the great Irish poet. "Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and
you never used to run out quotes like this when we did this every week."
Oh, true. So Yeats said, "Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say, my glory was, I had such friends." When you hear Caelan Doris, when you hear Josh van der Fleer, when you hear Ty Burr and these guys, sometimes from Munster or Leinster, they really have a great love for each other. So we're seeing a clash here between two Celtic nations, and I would probably put my fiver on Ireland. I just think they've got particular matchup problems for Scotland. And I think also they're a little bit more thinking. I'm not bagging the French, but sometimes when the French get in trouble, they just look a bit panicky to me still, just a little bit.
And they still look like they just turn it up. They just go, nah, this game's done. I don't care.
What do you think about that? Because the French at sometimes look imperious. They looked imperious until that moment. And then, I don't know, but I mean, giving 50 points up, is that even close to being, you know, you don't ever think of the All Blacks or the Springboks going into a trophy potential match. I mean, the trophy was sitting right there. They could have grabbed it and taken it.
Yes.
They don't let a team score 50. What's up with that?
No. You couldn't. You don't see New Zealand and South Africa in the penultimate weekend of the Rugby Championship with the trophy on display. You don't see them just going, I don't care, we're playing again next week. You just don't see that. You just don't.
Because you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Just back on Ireland, I think that contest, if that one is so close that if it was played in Edinburgh, you would probably pick Scotland for all the same reasons that you've just outlined.
Agree.
I think I'm caught up in the romance of it. Like, I really want Scotland to win the tournament this year. So
maybe a popular winner. Maybe the most popular winner.
Hugely popular. So I think I want to see Scotland win for that reason. But I can't argue with the way Ireland have rebuilt themselves on the run. McCloskey at 12 has been absolutely outstanding. And there's that conversation earlier about, the best 12s in the game right now. McCloskey's in that argument as well. So, our top 3 has just become a top 4. So
there is a case to be made for Scotland winning this, and it's based on this, which is Ireland is still messing around a bit at 10. Finn Russell will absolutely walk into that game thinking, I am Mr. 10. I am the 10 on this field.
Yep.
Ben
watch and learn, young fella. I'm going to teach you a few things.
It's tasty. The nines, the Johnson Gibson Park playing brilliantly, but Ben White, what was that? He brought some special spice. He was full peak 9. He was chattering all day to Antoine Dupont. He put him on the ground and was screaming in his face. That was 9 behavior.
So good. He was right in his face, wasn't he? What I did pick up on the socials is a lot of people just going, "Oh, Toulouse Toulon is going to be interesting when they face off next."
I thought the same thing. I thought that really was probably something from Toulon to lose.
Probably, yeah. Almost
that Ben White would have, I'm sure he would have been sort of spicy, but I think it was a special layer of spice.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Kinghorn, I think his players were there. Like they have some sort of Finn Russell's played in Paris. The French are still the most interesting team, I suppose, for me to analyze because they can look so good that it's scary. I mean, scary 2027 scary, like Australia World Cup scary. But then again, you have these sort of weird things, and I'm reminded of Descartes. So here's a Descartesian quote, which you already know. Je pense donc je suis, or cogito ergo sum, which means I think, or maybe I offload, therefore I am. But he also said, dubito ergo cogito ergo sum. I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. And I think there's some doubts creeping into the French story. We keep hearing the same thing. What do you hear when they start every broadcast from the Northern Hemisphere starts? Well, they have the best player in the world. They have the best wing in the world. They have the best whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they keep saying best. Show me. At some point, you've got to win the trophy.
At some point, you need to start looking like that. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I think so. I think we want Italy to get the 3rd win. I think we want them to reach a level they've never reached before. So as much as it's been impressive, it means that Wales go winless, and that is sad. But I have been impressed with the way Wales have shown more fight in contests as the tournament has gone on. So there's an argument that Wales have built up in this tournament as well, and that's worth recognising. So how do England play the spoiler in Paris this weekend?
Yeah, so England has, in some ways, the perfect opportunity because they've been so formulaic that if there were a team to do something different and it would catch you by surprise, it would be England, right? So there's been a bit of variation in the Irish system. There's been a bit of game shape difference with Scotland. For sure, Scotland's played different game plans. And the French have been, obviously a little volatile. England's been the same. So if there were a time when you'd select maybe a bit differently, where you'd maybe take that axis on the pullback to 10, 12 and have a second line of attack, perhaps the variety of kicking is most at fault. And then, whatever 5% of rabid frenzy that you need to get, there's always that. It seems to be that you need to get a lead. The French are really good front runners. You're just hard to reel them back in. Once they get their tails up, they're confidence players. So make the game into little games. Just say first 8 minutes we're gonna kill them for the 8 minutes. And then we'll do a long red set piece. We'll reload. We'll get our breath back. Water boys, whatever, and then go again and again. Borthwick has shown that he's able to get up for one big, cataclysmic match, and hell, he might be playing for his job right now, and that can really motivate players.
That's what I was going to say. It feels like there is a lot on the line on this game for England. There is a lot for England to lose this weekend.
They're staring at one of the worst campaigns ever, I think.
Exactly.
6 nations.
Exactly. And so that's going to be a motivator. There's a lot of players' reputations have been dented in this tournament. So individually, they've got a lot to play for. As a team, they'll feel like they owe Borthwick something because the way they've played is putting back in the crosshairs that 12 straight wins was supposed to have got him out of. I actually think their kick chase has been off. It just hasn't been as effective and devastating as it was in November or even last year. So I think it could be as simple as that. If they just chase their kicks better, they don't have to even necessarily have to retain more of them. But if they just contest those more, things will fall in their direction. That's just the way the kick chase chaos works now. But if they can just make that contest more of a contest, I think things start falling their way. And so, yeah, we'll see how it plays out. It's just going to be a fascinating weekend, mate. Like those 3 games are just absolutely brilliant. And there is not enough hours for me in the early hours of Sunday morning. They're definitely not all going to be watched live. I know that, but it is just going to be a fascinating weekend. It's been so cool to go through with all this with you again. It's been so good to catch up, mate. So thanks so much for to your people particularly for finding some time for for remembering where you came from
in my giant conglomerate. The best chats are always where you actually forgot that you were chatting and you just ended up having a conversation with a friend. That's how that felt like to me. I do want to remind you, because you questioned whether the Urk is real. Little Stormers man says that that shit is real. Yeah, we're in it to win it.
So if there is one thing that I've missed, mate, it's the ability to give you stick every week about how you're interested in the Urk again.
That's not real unless we're doing well. Yes, that's how I
Yes, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Thanks so much, mate. It's been good.
All right. Cheers, man.
So good to have Harry Jones on 8-9 Rugby for the first time in 2026. It was always the plan that he would come back on as a guest at some point. So we'll work up some more opportunities throughout the year. It was just great to catch up. It really was like old times. On the Oz rugby scene this week, Ben Smith from the Western Australian, not that Ben Smith and not that Ben Smith either. He joins me on the next episode of the Oz Rugby Scene, where we'll get around another weekend of Super Rugby Pacific, and we'll dig into a fairly big couple of days for the Western Force as well. So don't miss that. 8-9 Rugby on YouTube, plus wherever you pod. And thanks so much to Sean Maloney for the shout out on Between Two Posts this week for 8-9 Rugby on Substack. Hope you've found it. Jeff Parks and I have been busy over the Australian summer and getting into the season now, building up a new outlet for rugby coverage down this way. More than 600 subscribers already, and we really, really hope that you would join us and join in the discussion. It's been absolutely fantastic. We've already featured names that opinions that you really, really respect. So find us on Substack. Subscribe now to the exclusive home of Jeff's very widely regarded column, The Wrap, every Monday exclusively on 8-9 Rugby, plus more great writing through the rest of the rugby week as well. Another great 8-9 episode behind me. Really, really great to have Harry Jones on. He likes what we've done with the place, and that's so good. Tell us what you think by finding 8-9 Rugby on the socials. Have your say right here on the 8-9 YouTube channel. You can find me on the socials as well at BMC Sport. This is 8-9 Rugby, and we will be back in your ears this week with the Oz Rugby Scene.